Hi, welcome to vlog number 54. This is the vlog where I talk about Quarterly Stories, which is my graphic novel that I hand write, hand letter, and hand ink, and then hand to you. Hopefully someday in print. For now, you can read it serialized at quarterlystories.com. This is the vlog where I talk about the process of creating that on top of being a full-time art director, father, and husband. It's a very personal story to me about faith and mental illness, and you can read it all the way up to the recently completed page 46 on quarterlystories.com. So, what have I been up to? Well, I've finished inking page 46, and I finished the majority of this on the Artcasters. I cleaned it up, I scanned it, and then I posted it to my website today. So here is the finished page. As I said before, I really wanted the whole page to have kind of a graphic quality to it. So instead of being broken into single panels, I wanted to have it be more graphic and kind of read more referencing page 4 of Quarterly Stories, because I think that whenever I'm discussing depressive thoughts, it's a really good way to introduce it almost as like an infographic to the mindset of depression. So in this case, you know, the page flow should kind of read somewhat like this, and hopefully that's where your eye will flow. So it's going from left to right, right to left, and then left to right again, which is a conscious thing because generally, unless I had given this indicator here, you would read it like this if you live in the US, and generally that's how we read things. And so to me, I like changing it up and kind of doing designs that do stuff like this. I think at some point I'd like to do a design that actually kind of maybe goes like that, but we'll see. So anyhow, that's page 46 finished and inked. Just basically single illustrations, so they were fairly easy to execute, but I think very effective to sell the story that I like to tell. Another thing I kind of want to point out that I love doing in comics is sweat bullets, which is something I love drawing. I love including sweat bullets. They used to be in old Mickey Mouse cartoons, and I think they're an unused commodity that should be really explored more by cartoonists. And another is like the little anger scribble that Charles Schultz liked using with like Charlie Brown. I think that is a really awesome tool, and I try to throw it in any panel that I possibly can create an excuse to throw it into. So that is page 46, and moving on to my roughs over here in my sketchbook. Tonight I'm hoping to make roughs of page 47 so that I can keep the progress moving forward. So some of you from the last vlog might notice that I had kind of been having some brief negative thoughts, and one thing I wanted to kind of mention about that was one of the benefits of doing a lot of work on myself and improving myself and improving my ability to manage people and improving myself as an artist is that I've actually also gotten better at recognizing negative thoughts that won't be beneficial to my future a lot earlier than I used to be able to. And so what I did when I was having those doubts and those thoughts was I recognized them for what they were, and then I cast them aside and I went home and I worked on more comics. And that worked really effectively, and now I'm a page further, whereas if I had listened to negative thoughts, I might have actually just stifled, maybe not finished the page, maybe not even sat down to ink, and then had to take another week or so to basically get back into the project. So positive thinking isn't all BS. It isn't all just self-help BS. It's actually really super helpful, at least for people like me who are prone to like dark thoughts and stuff like that. So now I'm going to get to roughing page 47. I haven't looked at my script in a while, and it's one of the reasons I like to break my comic into little tiny breaks because it keeps it interesting for me. So I think if I roughed out like the entire comic all in one sitting, then I'd have a lot of pages that were just kind of like eked out and not thought out very well, and eventually when I was penciling all of those pages, I'd get bored with penciling. If I were inking all the pages in a row, I'd get really bored with inking and it would show in my work. So what I like to do is break it into little chunks. So I like to thumbnail pages from my script, a page at a time, and then go from that to pencils, and go from pencils to inks, and then start all over again. It keeps it fresh, it keeps it interesting, and it keeps me having to switch gears, which I think is really important on a big project. So anyhow, now I'm going to get to working on my thumbnails. So I've already kind of explained what my roughing process is like, but just to kind of go over it again and review it, what I have is this script, and I'm going to go through the script, and I'm usually going to read a few lines. I'm going to kind of mark off, like in the case of this, I would mark off like the line and then put a little line when I came to the part in the sentence that was going to be a caption put in a panel. And so what I'm going to do is break this down into like what I want my panels to be, and then I'm going to roughly like sketch out what I want my page to look like. Sometimes I like to just turn it this way so that basically I'm like looking at like kind of a mini page size. And keep in mind, this is just literally like a roadmap for me and my future page for page 47 of Quarterly Stories. So So just to explain this, it's basically going to be a sequence that is a picture of a room. So this is the roof, door, it's going to be probably a closet and a bed, and there's going to be this creeping black kind of smoke that comes in the page. Me sitting on the bed and my wife basically sitting here. Panel 2 will be the same shot, same exact pose, but this blackness is creeping into the room, ties into the narrative up here. And then basically right here I'm signifying that the black smoke is going to kind of grow almost like it's crawling on top of the room. This will be a closer shot, close-up shot of me on the bed, wife in the background behind me, and this blackness of depression basically coming in. And then here, this will be basically the blackness filling the entire panel, character in the background looking kind of shocked as the blackness is consuming them, and kind of starting to creep in up the nose of this character. And then this last one, the black cloud will have consumed everybody. That was my rough. I kind of like the layout idea. Initially I was thinking have a text box here and then a horizontal text box here, but then I realized that actually this would be more impactful to basically have as a text box that's going to be included on top of this. So eventually it'll be right here. And so that was me breaking it and saying that it's going to be broken into where it says eventually covering, infecting everything, including me as the last panel. Here I decided I didn't like this straight on angle, and to show you guys, like one of the things I used to teach in illustration is that usually when you draw, you tend to draw things on a straight horizon, but actually one of the things that great directors like Alfred Hitchcock was incredible at this, did was like basically instead of having the horizon line like this, have it tilted because it makes for a much more dynamic shot. So here I'm noting that I'm going to tilt the room from being straight horizontal shot to being more like that. So in this case it's going to look more akin to that, and this will be the edge of the panel. So to draw that box so that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about, because that's what this note is signifying, I'm talking about like my box is actually going to be more like that, just to increase the drama, because you can see if I do that, that's a much more dramatic image than that is. So I made that note to myself that I'm going to tilt the angle. Right here I kind of drew the angle I want, and similarly I noted to myself that I will tilt this angle here so this box will be more akin to this, which is much more dramatic. So here I've covered it with surrounding paper just to show you that will be the viewpoint, which I think is much more dynamic and full of tension than say this was. So that's pretty much how I'm going to do this shot, and this shot. And now I've done my 30 minutes today. I thumbnailed page 47, and I'm pretty excited to get to doing the layout, and then I'll do photo reference and move on with the progress. If you're curious about my process, or curious at all about my process, that just look at my older videos and I get much more heavily into it. So anyhow, that's that. That's my progress. I thumbnailed page 47 of Quarterly Stories, and I'm feeling pretty good about how this page is going to come out, even though it's going to be pretty tough because it's a lot of sequences that require more complicated backgrounds, so it might take a little longer than page 46 did. So anyhow, I also wanted to mention that I'm also really encouraged to be living in California. The largest protest ever just happened on Washington, D.C. to protest the president, and also just to stand up for women's rights. And Los Angeles was, like, I think maybe the second largest in the country, and it was a completely peaceful protest. So I'm pretty proud of Californians and women and all the women artists I know who, you know, went out and marched in the campaign. And I can't be prouder, and honestly, it's nice to have a good news day on top of all the craziness that's been in the news lately. It's nice to have a positive news day. So keep it up, guys. Keep it up, women. Keep fighting, and I will see you guys next week.